everybody, and welcome to Fab Tax. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Rosemary, and this is a bunch of paper towel and toilet paper rolls. Now you may be saying, what could I possibly make with this? Well, let me show you. How about this? And this? And this? My inspiration for these pieces was this wood carved pumpkin from Hobby Lobby. It's currently on sale from $4.79 to $7.19. But when I saw this in store, I thought, I can make that from some toilet paper rolls. And so if you'd like to see how I did that, keep watching. To make the set of 3 sweater pumpkins, I used 8 paper towel sized rolls and cut 4 of them to make the small and medium sized rolls, while 4 were for the large ones. After measuring down and marking at 3.5 inches for 4 of the rolls, I cut them so that I would have just the 3.5 inch for the small pumpkin and then the larger piece for the medium pumpkin. I then simply hot glued 4 of the tubes together, and I used some paper clips just to hold them in place. As I went on, I wasn't using the paper clips anymore, but if you find that helps you, that'll help them hold them in place and make sure that you get them glued in the right spot. I then glued the large and medium rolls together. For the sweater topping, I used this old sweater that had some stains on it, and then I just removed the sleeves. I used one of the sleeves for the long paper towel roll for the large one, and then the other sleeve to share between the other 2. Then I just measured it, made sure I had enough, and trimmed any excess. In order to get a less bulky fit, I just cut some slits in the sweater, and then that enabled me to put the pieces in and lap them over a little less bulky. Once the bottom was tucked in, I flipped it to the other side and folded down the sweater, and then I began to put some newspaper into each of the cavities, and then pushing it down with a ruler to get it down to the bottom. I did this to just solidify the form and make it stronger. Then I just tucked the top pieces in the same way. I repeated the process on the other side, again removing the sleeve from the sweater, but then this time I wanted to make sure I had enough space for both pieces, so I measured out and just kind of flipped it around, made sure that I had enough space to tuck in underneath on the top and on the bottom of the forms. And then I just repeated the process, putting the forms into the sweater sleeve, tucking them in on the bottom, and then filling them with the paper and tucking them in on the top as well. And lastly then, the same thing with just the smallest one. Tucked everything in. And then I proceeded to take some jute twine, and I took the jute twine, leaving a little bit of a tail, maybe a 4 or 5 inch tail, and then wrapped the jute twine around the pumpkin 4 times, going in between the paper towel rolls. Then I took the jute twine again and wrapped it in the opposite direction, again 4 times, leaving a fairly long 5 or 6 inch tail on the end, and you'll see why in a second. And then I just tie it off on top and make sure it's nice and secure so that it creates those indents along the sides of the pumpkin. So to create those little spiral twirls, I took the ends of the jute twine and I brushed them with some Mod Podge on the backs and the fronts and made sure they were well coated. Then I took a pencil and I stuck it in the cavity of the pumpkin and just wrapped the twine around the pumpkin, securing it on the edge with a little bit more of the Mod Podge. I repeated that for all 4 ends of the jute twine. Once the twine was dry, but not completely stuck to the pencil, completely dried to the pencil itself, I took it out. It's still a little pliable, so you can just be careful, and if they do come apart, just kind of rewind them a little bit so that they give you that nice spiral form. To make the stem, I took a piece of craft paper and rolled it up. Then once it was rolled, I began twisting it. I'm just twisting it tightly around so that it makes a nice stem form. And then I took it and put it into the cavity of the pumpkin. To make sure it kept its form, I brushed it with some Mod Podge, getting it into all the cracks and crevices, and then proceeded to twist it again in order to create the form. And then I just made a little bow with this burlap polka dot ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree. And lastly, I took one of these Dollar Tree burlap leaves and just cut out a little leaf that I hot glued there to the side of the pumpkin. I finished off all 3 pumpkins the same way. And here they are all together, small, medium, and large. Next I made the little green wood pumpkin. This one was made the same way. I used toilet paper rolls instead for this one though, because I was just making the smaller one. And just glued them together the same way, but in this case I also added some masking tape to the top of the form. Next I took some of these craft sticks from the Dollar Tree and I just measured them to the size of the toilet paper rolls and then cut them out so that, just cut off the edges to make sure that they were the same size as the toilet paper roll, and then used that to just guide me for every other popsicle stick. So I just made a bunch of those, cut them out, and then proceeded to glue them onto the sides of the toilet paper rolls. When I got into the corners, I just trimmed them to fit, and they cut pretty easy. You can just cut them lengthwise as easily as they cut widthwise. Once all the craft sticks were glued to the sides, I painted it with a coat of this moss-colored Waverly chalk paint. To make the stems, I took 5 more of the craft sticks and cut them all the tops off at an angle. I then hot glued the sticks together kind of unevenly so that the tops were a little uneven. And then I painted those with this truffle paint. Once the green paint was dry on the pumpkin, I just took some more of the truffle and dry brushed the edges and bottoms and tops of the pumpkin with the truffle paint. Then I took my stem and just placed it right in the cavity. Then I took a piece of this aged cookie tin that I had from a previous project and just cut out a little leaf form. And then I also added some raffia and just tied on a little raffia bow. I will link the project. This was from a banner project that I did, and I just had that extra piece of the foil pan left over, so I just used that to create the little leaf, and then I just put on some hot glue and attached it to the top of the pumpkin. Then I just trimmed up the bow a little bit, and there you have it. Next, I tried to replicate that inspiration piece by, again, using the form and covering it with the masking tape on top. And then I just took little pieces of this Dollar Tree clay, rolled them up into like a pea-size ball, and then just pressed them into the sides of the toilet paper rolls. Now, I should have been paying better attention to the inspiration piece because I did make these a little bit larger than what they are on the inspiration piece, but you get the idea. If you did want to do this project, you could just make them smaller. And then I just continued around the whole surface of the form. And here's what it looks like when it's all done before I paint it. And then after I actually let this sit overnight just to give it a little bit more time to air dry, and then I painted it with some of the the pumpkin Waverly paint. Once the pumpkin colored paint was dry, I just took some of the truffle colored paint and again just painted the edges, the raised edges of the clay. And then I just added the same type of painted craft stick stem that I had from the little green pumpkin, and then just took a piece of burlap and tied it around the top. Then I just went back with a little dry brush of the truffle. And here's the finished piece. Not quite like the inspiration piece, but I think it's still kind of cute. And here the sweater set and the little green pumpkin are in their new home on the mantle. And there's the banner I was referring to. I do have several other ideas for finishes for these paper towel and toilet roll pumpkins. So if you like these and you would like me to show you the rest of the ideas I have in mind, please give me a like on this video, and if I get enough likes, I'm going to go ahead and publish another video with maybe 4 or 5 different finishes. So thanks a lot for watching, and hope to see you next time.